Hey, what's up, guys? Just here fixing some vegetable soup, so I thought I'd show you guys what I got going on. Now, I can't promise that I am a excellent cook or I'm good at making vegetable soup because I've never made vegetable soup before. So I'm just kind of throwing this together in my head, kind of like my mom did. She never made recipes. She never wrote nothing down. It was just in her head. And I know my vegetable soup's not going to be nowhere near what she made, so I guess this is my take on vegetable soup. So, I've got my 1 onion, chopped up kind of coarse, and celery in here with some olive oil and a little bit of butter. No measurements, I just put it in the pan. So I'm letting this stuff sweat. Actually, it's probably a little bit too hot. It's making too much noise. But it smells good. So over here, I've got some thyme. I've never used fresh thyme. It's always been in a container. So, should I leave the little stems on it? Or just pick the leaves off? I don't know. So, this is half and half. Stems and some of the leaves. I'm going to throw that in there too. It smells good. That's one thing I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to use more fresh herbies when I do cooking. This spring, I'll be having a herbie garden. So that's something else I'm trying to incorporate into my life. As you can see, I've got some carrots. I've got garlic here, garlic cloves, and some potatoes, oregano, soy sauce, hot sauce, can of mushrooms, butter beans, and 2 cans of whole peeled tomatoes, and vegetable broth or stock. Is there a difference between, or not vegetable, but chicken broth? Is there a difference between a broth and a stock? I want to say they're the same thing, but I'm not sure. So, if some of you all in the comments would educate me a little bit, that would be awesome. So I'm going to let this kind of hang out and party a little bit, and then I'll get on to something else. Now I'm going to get my carrots cut down and mush the garlic and put that in. Okay, everything in here looks like they're getting pretty happy. I'm going to have to crank that heat up and let those carrots get good and hot. Instead of them just sweating, I think I'm going to brown these a little bit. I'm going to let this go and see how soft and if I can get any color out of them. Okay, so we got some of the vegetables. They're getting a little brown. The carrots have a little bit of brown on them. The mushrooms are browning. The onions somewhat. So, I was sitting there and thinking, what else do I have that I could put into this that might add another layer of flavor? I had an open container of hot breakfast sausage. Yup. I'm going to cook this about 80%, take it off, get the grease off of it, and then at a later point in time I'm going to add the sausage to the vegetable soup. And my mom sometimes would add beef, like chunks of beef, to the vegetable soup. Sometimes she wouldn't. And honestly, I like it with the beef or the meat. So I was like, I bet this sausage would be good in this vegetable soup. So I'm going to give it a try and see how it does. If you've never used like breakfast sausage in your chili, don't use ground beef anymore. Or use 1 pound of ground beef and 1 pound of hot sausage if you like hot. If not, use mild. It's a world difference in how your chili turns out. It's amazing. So sitting here, just kind of watching stuff happen, I just remembered my mom would always use a thing of vegetable juice. Sometimes she would use like half V8, half just vegetable juice, but I don't have any of that stuff. So I was like, what could I do to maybe imitate that flavor? And all I've got is a can of tomato puree. So I might add some puree into this and kind of let that go a little bit. Maybe add some water. Well, no, I've got the chicken broth that can go in there too. So maybe I'll be okay. Sausage is not 100% cooked yet, but it'll cook in the pot. And like I said, it's about 80%. I'm going to include a bag of frozen cut green beans, lima beans. I got my potatoes. I had 1 can of some type of butter bean. So yeah, everything in here is starting to get good and happy. So I think I'm going to start adding beans. So I've got my 1 can of whole tomatoes here. I drained 1 can, but I think I'm not going to drain the 2nd can. Or should I even put a 2nd can in? I'll figure that out. I'm also thinking about throwing in a can of corn, because it's a vegetable. I really don't think there's anything you can do to mess up vegetable soup, other than maybe put sausage in it. But I'm going to give it a try. Okay, that 1 whole can of tomatoes, I halved them and then quartered them, and I poured everything in here. So I'm going to let that sit and party for a little while, and I'll try to figure out what I'm going to do next. So I've got the tomatoes in there. I think now would probably be a good time to add the chicken broth. So I think I'm going to do half a box and see how that does. And then just chop up my potatoes and add these 2 things and just let it cook and see how it turns out. Oh yeah, I got to add the sausage. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay, so I did it. I've got lima beans, butter beans, green beans, carrots, celery, mushrooms. I would have put some corn in here too, but I don't have a can of corn, which is really strange because normally I have a metric shitload of corn. I do have some mixed vegetables, but I don't know. I might go through and pick the corn out of a can of that. Just so I can say I've got some yellow stuff in here. So it's here. It's been boiling now for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to let it kind of do its thing for a little while. I got a sneaking suspicion it's going to take a little bit for it to cook down. So, and I'm going to leave it covered as well with my high-tech cover here. So, what am I going to do now? So this is what I'm going to do now. It was a beautiful day today. It was like 62 degrees and amazing. I'm cleaning up some garbage around here. Started a burn pile. And I'm going to try not to slip and bust my rear end on this muddy ground. So what I'm going to do is start a fire. And you might be asking yourself, what, pray tell, are you doing, dummy? I'm going to start this fire with hand sanitizer. And you can't see an alcohol fire during the day. So that's what I'm going to use. That's the only reason why I buy hand sanitizer. I don't care about being sanitary. Just like making pretty blue fire. Fire. Just sit him right down there. Let him explode, which I'm sure is what happened. And yeah, I had to cheat. I had to add some kerosene to it. But yeah, hand sanitizer is really cool. Okay, so it's been about an hour. I've had this at a pretty decent boil, and I gave it a taste, and I think the salt is about where it needs to be. It's maybe a tad high, and I can taste a little bit of heat because I did add a little bit of hot sauce, and I added a little bit of soy sauce that I've got over here. So I've turned the heat down to 2, and it's still just cranking out the heat. I don't guess you can cook vegetable soup too fast, but I'm trying not to. So I'm gonna sit and think for a minute because there's just something that's missing. I need to bring that salt down just a hair. I'm going to try these beans. Man, that's hot. I still have I just can't put my finger on it. The tomato is there. The salt. I need something. I'm missing something. So I've thought about it, and what I ended up doing is I added a little bit of ketchup to it. Just maybe a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more, and that squirted right away. It's perfect. Now, I had just let it cook down probably another 45 minutes from that last video, and I just added a little bit more water to it, and I'm going to let it get back to temperature again and cook just a little bit longer. The carrots are done, the potatoes are done, everything tastes great. And I did end up, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I did end up adding a can of mixed vegetables that I had, and it ended up mainly being carrots and with 2 or 3 little corn kernels, which I was pretty disappointed about. Normally it's all corn. So, but anyways, I'm also going to make some of this. That is Jiffy cornbread mix, my favorite. I think some cornbread with a vegetable. I'm just going to call this a stew now because it's got so thick. So, Jiffy cornbread with a vegetable stew. Yeah. And supper is finished. I keep going back here and doing like a taste test. And the more I taste it, the more I think this is probably the best thing I've ever made in my life. It's so good. Yeah, the salt content's a little high, but I'm going to say that's probably a lot to do with, the sausage, and I was actually seasoning the vegetables kind of as I was going, so it might have been my fault, but it's completely edible. It's not overpowering. It's just, it's got a lot of, I guess, kick maybe, but it's definitely some really good stuff. And there's my cornbread I made. So it looks like I'm getting ready to eat dinner. And here we go, folks. Probably the best thing I've ever made and put in a bowl. So good. The sausage is a definite winner. I would definitely recommend you try it. It just gives a whole different level of flavor to vegetable stew. So, if y'all like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Check me out on Instagram and the little links and stuff below. See ya.
It's the dream.